They're called millennials, echo boomers, unemployables, Gen Y, saflings, the snowflake generation, and even Generation Find Your Own Place to Live Before I Change the Locks. But they may not be quite who you think they are. A new report shows that millennials are just as diverse as any other generation, if not more so, but that they do share what Real Clear Politics calls, this is a quote, a palpable sense of disillusionment. Well, buck up, kiddos. We've got the right angle and a future so bright you'll have to wear shades. I'm Steve Green, and I'm so old I just referenced a song that came out around the time millennials started going to kindergarten. You can see my gray. Ouch. Anyway, I'm here, of course, with Scott Ott and Bill Whittle. And how do you do, fellow kids? I mean, gents. So, guys, there was this AP series on millennials, and this was fascinating reading to me. The under 30 set, as you know, is viewed as being Bernie bros or Chavez-loving socialists indoctrinated by their red diaper college professors. But in reality, millennials tend to be socially liberal, as you well know, but they also tend to be fiscally conservative. Of most interest to me in this story, probably because it was local, was Trip Nistico. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. A recent Colorado Law School graduate. He's a gun rights advocate. He visits shooting ranges, but also supports same-sex marriage. He backed President Barack Obama in 2008, Mitt Romney in 2012. The 26-year-old is voting for Trump this year. So here's a young man who obviously knows what he believes in, but our political class is so unrepresentative of his beliefs that his votes, well, they're all over the board, from liberal Obama to moderately conservative Romney to who the hell knows what he is this week, Trump. Scott, you've run for office before. Isn't this exactly the age of voter you'd want to appeal to and then keep election after election? And how would you make your case to somebody like him?
Well, no, because actually I want to appeal to them when they're like 6 years old, because it takes a while to build a conservative. And so I'd rather do that before they get to the polling place. It's a little too late by that time. But I think that there may be a mistaken notion here. I think this generation would utterly reject the labels you just used, the whole fiscally conservative, socially liberal. I don't even think that they think that way. Because frankly, I know a lot of young people who, for example, don't think that gay marriage is right and don't think that abortion is right and stuff like that, but they also may not believe that government can do much about it or should do much about it. And so it's not that their morals are any different than perhaps previous generations. It's just that disillusionment that you talked about how the government has just utterly failed to resolve any kind of conflicts, where they finally say, you know what? I don't think that a man should marry a man, and I don't think that a woman should abort her fetus. On the other hand, I also don't think that any of these two gaggles of liars are ever going to do anything about it. And so I'm going to put my hopes somewhere else.
Well, you hit on something there, but I'm going to save it for the conclusion. I want to tell another story. This one is about Bill and Christy Clay, parents of two young boys and devout Christians from rural Ohio, have struggled to pick a candidate who matches their values. Christy Clay opposes same-sex marriage and abortion and names those as her top issues. Yet the 32-year-old school librarian reluctantly leans toward Clinton because she feels Trump is materialistic and prefers the Democratic views on immigration and poverty. Again, that's from the Real Clear Politics write-up of the AP story. Bill, just last week I hosted a members-only segment on how the conservative and the GOP brands are tarnished, maybe beyond repair. That seems almost quaint in retrospect, now that we know Republicans are having trouble keeping voters like Bill and Christy Clay. Where do we go from here with millennials?
Well, let's just talk about Bill and Christy Clay for a second.
Sure.
If she says her big issues are abortion, there's clearly no difference. I mean, a big difference, rather, between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump on this. I mean, Hillary Clinton is the Planned Parenthood banner. She's on their stamps, for God's sakes. I mean, there's no question. You may not know exactly what Donald Trump's position on abortion is, but you do know for an absolute fact it's not going to be as extreme as Hillary Clinton's. That's her entire platform. And so what you find when you quote that article, Steve, is you find something kind of interesting. You ask people what their primary desires are, what are their top issues, and they'll tell you. But that's not how they vote. They're not voting to get their top issues. They're voting to prevent their bottom issues. They're voting to prevent the things that they fear the most. That's what, certainly in this election, that's what people are doing. It's not a question of, hey, I like this, I like this. It's, I can't stand this and I have to keep this out, which is basically, in a nutshell, the argument for voting for Trump, right? It's like, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm just voting to keep this felon, lunatic invalid out of the White House. So that whole part of it is important. As far as the millennials go, I've found, having spoken to them, that they are very uninformed about how the government works. However, they are, in fact, very virtuous people. They don't have, if you ask them, do you think it's okay to hit people or take their stuff or break a promise, they'll say no. And it's like, well, congratulations, welcome to conservatism. They want to keep their own stuff. They've been told that wealth redistribution is awesome, but when you ask them, under those circumstances, if you agree with that, would you sell your Xbox and your phone to feed a family in Africa for a year? And the answer is no, they will not. So once again, we find ourselves with people whose natural inclination is to be conservative and Republican, but the brand is so badly tarnished that they will simply refuse to do so. And in conclusion, you find that people, no matter what they believe, will not vote for the villain. And the Romney election is that in a nutshell. Romney won everything in exit polling, not in pre-election polling. He won everything. He won the economy. What's hot? What's the biggest thing on people's mind? The economy. He won this big. National security, won it big. Recovery, economic recovery, won it big. Deficit reduction, won big. Law and order, won it. Won. The only thing he didn't win was, who do you think cares more about you? And Barack Obama ran away with that, I think 93% to 7 or something. So Obama had successfully portrayed Romney as a villain. He's a vampire. He's a corporate vampire who gives women cancer and then puts them in binders and ships them to China. And people in front of our eyes overrode what they felt and what they knew to be the most important issues to them, simply because they wouldn't vote for the bad guy.
You hate to have to paint with that brush, but we might just have to. Listen to folks, luxury car makers like Mercedes, Lexus, and BMW, they all sell starter models for about $30,000. That's pretty affordable. They might be a little light on the luxuries and be powered by smaller engines, but each one still bears that three-pointed star or the swooping L or the blue and white roundel. The idea is that if they can sell a young person a smaller, less expensive luxury car today, they'll sell them a bigger, more expensive one in a few years, and an even fancier one after that, and so on, sticking with the same brand for the rest of their lives. Progressives have done a commendable job of selling millennials that first car, bringing them into the brand, so to say, from a very early age, as Scott was saying. But that fancy emblem on the grill isn't delivering on the promise of quality. Millennials are discovering that student debt the size of a mortgage doesn't guarantee them a job, but it does keep them paying off progressive university administrators year after year from debt they can't get out from under. Obamacare gave millennials a promise of staying on their parents' insurance, but it destroyed the starter jobs that could have let them move out of their parents' basements. Progressives said they could spend our way to prosperity, but have left millennials and someday their kids with debts and liabilities that we're just never going to pay. They can't be paid. So it turns out that new car Progressive sold you, well, it was just an old junker with a fresh coat of paint slapped on, and now even the paint is chipping off. So our message to millennials is, or at least it should be, it's time to trade in and trade up. And that's the right angle on kids these days, made possible by the paying members of BillWhittle.com. Our thanks to them for making this possible, and our thanks to you for your time. We'll see you again.